Well, hi, everybody. I'm Vin Scully, and a very pleasant, happy Easter to you, wherever you may be. Welcome to the final round of the 1982 Masters. The Masters this year has been an extremely difficult one, made even more so by treacherous weather. We had heavy rains on Thursday, severe gusty winds on Friday, and dreadful pin placements for the first 2 days. Yesterday here at Augusta, they made it a little bit easier on the golfers with generous pin placement, and the boys really took advantage of it. And for one brief moment here at Augusta National, the Masters had a look of eagles and quite a few birdies as well. Take a look. Well, that was yesterday. It's a pretty tough act to follow, but who knows in the final round of the 82 Masters. Here's Raymond Floyd, who won here in '76 at the 9th hole. 435-yard par 4. His second shot, he's 1 over par. Raymond started 1 under, so he's 2 over through 8. And he has left himself that severe down-hit putt at 9 that has racked up so many casualties. Raymond is playing with Bob Gilder. Gilder has cooled off in the breeze. He was 6 under yesterday for a 66 round, but he's 5 over for the tourney. And look who's blazing hot. He's got it to Ocho. Craig Stadler is now at 8 under. He picked up a birdie at 2, and he has picked up a birdie at 6, and now he has just birdied 7, and we'll go to Steve Melnick at 10.
Where Jack Nicklaus has hit for him a very uncharacteristic second shot. From good position in the middle of the fairway, I think Jack might like to have that one again. His playing partner, Curtis Strange, has hit the best shot we've seen of the day, some 14 inches from the hole. Simply magnificent shot.
Let's put the pieces on the board now in this final round. Stadler, a comfortable 6-shot lead. The boy from USC is at 8 under and blazing hot again on the front side. Behind him, Tom Kite, who has made a couple of moves. He plays exceptionally well here. He's been in the top 10 6 of the last 7 years. He's at 2 under. Right behind him, Dan Pohl, who had the back-to-back eagles yesterday. He picked up a couple of birdies in the early going. He's at 2 under par. Seve Ballesteros, who won here in 1980, he's at 2 under. And Tom Weiskopf, the only other man to reach red, he's 1 under par. Jerry Pate is at even par, trying to make a run, but he can't do it. Let's go to 12. Pat?
Here is Tom Kite at 12. That's for birdie. He just missed birdie at 11 moments ago. And now he just did it again. Kite with Jim Simons, who both hit fine shots into this par 3. That's the way the hole is played. 31 birdies, most of them yesterday. Oh, what a great putt. Simons, who has, of course, severe eye problems, wears contacts, and sometimes at this time of the year, regardless how beautiful it is, that pollen can be a problem. Ken Venturi.
Yes, Pat, I tried some contact lenses this week, and I couldn't try them any longer. The pollen was so bad, it's hard to have.
This is Kyte. That's for par. He remains at -2. Back over to 9.
Raymond Floyd looking down the chute at 9. After a great chip by Bob Gilder, he almost pulled it out. So here's Raymond. 2 over on this front side of Augusta National. Started at 1 under, and he's 1 over par for the tournament. Raymond's numbers, as you can see, yesterday his best round, 3 under. '76 Masters, I guess one of the clubs that really figured heavily was his 5-wood. Let's go to 11.
Jody Mudd, his second at 11. Right at the stick, but a little bit short. Mudd, of course, is an amateur playing with Fuzzy Zeller. You can see what Fuzzy has to negotiate. Back over to 9.
Interesting, we've just seen Jody Mudd, and he had an even tougher putt than Raymond Floyd, way up above the hole, and he just left it on the lip at 9. But for Floyd, really difficult. Paper blowing across the green, distracting him. 9 is alongside 18. So they're in pursuit of Stadler, and Craig's not showing any signs of letting up. To repeat, his birdies at 2, 6, and 7. And Stadler at 8 under, 6 shots in front of Kyte, Pohl, and Ballesteros. This for par. And with that, we go to Gary Bender at 14.
Yutaka Hagawa of Japan, the only left-hander in the Masters this year. On this par 4, his second shot, and it's too strong over the back. But he is up above on a plateau. He doesn't want to be short under club and then have to putt uphill. Hagawa started the day 4 over. He's lost a shot to par, now 5 over as you look at Larry Nelson. Nelson playing very well. He's 3 under for the day. Started out 4 over. Larry 160 yards away. He'll be using a 9-iron. And he's in excellent shape. That ball will roll a little towards the hole as there's a knoll directly to the left of the pin. The pin today some 11 feet to the right of where it was cut yesterday. Let's go to 14. 10, I'm sorry.
We're at 10. Dan Pohl, playing with Tom Watson, has put his second shot in perfect birdie position, some 12 feet under the hole. Tom Watson has driven it probably further than anyone we've seen today. He may only have a 7-iron to this 485-yard par 4. Started to the right, and I don't think it's going to come in for him. In the bunker. And here you have it in the final round of this year's Masters Championship with Craig Stadler 8 under par, followed by Tom Kite Dan Pohl and Seve Ballesteros at 2 under, Tom Weiskopf at 1 under, and Jerry Pate at even.
Again, let's just double-check all the scores. Stadler, the leader, at 8 under par. Then you have Tom Kite, Dan Pohl, and Seve Ballesteros at 2 under, and Tom Weiskopf, the only other in red, at 1 under par. Jerry Pate is at even par. Larry Nelson is 1 over, along with Curtis Strange, Tom Watson, the defending champion, and Raymond Floyd, all at 1 over. Mark Hayes is 2 over. Andy Bean, 3 over par. Here's a great pairing. We're really looking forward to seeing this today. Seve Ballesteros and Tom Weiskopf, two fellows who can really let it out. And Weiskopf has hit it so far, I cannot believe it. In 4 days here, he is almost, well, he's at the flat. You see where the green suddenly becomes like a very pale river going across the fairway? That's where the spectators are allowed to cross. That's where he's hit the ball. And Ballesteros, and they tell you he can hit it, Ballesteros is a long-distance phone call from Weiskopf. Another area code. Look at that. Hello, operator, give me Weiskopf. So Seve Ballesteros, 2 under par. And it's not that he bunted the ball off the tee. Weiskopf's shot is scary. Seve, of course, won here in 1980. At 2 under, he finds himself 6 shots behind the leader. When Ballesteros won in 1980, he won by 4. Gibby Gilbert and Jack Newton came in 4 back of him. And while he checks it out, let's go back to 10.
Moments ago, this was Tom Watson out of the right greenside bunker. Not a bad shot from there. And back to 9.
Ballesteros taking a lot of time, and you can understand. The hole is playing downwind. The pin is way up on the incline. A lot of players have been psyched into coming up short and then coming back off the green, or muscling one, and the wind will blow it well beyond the flagstick, and then you have an impossible putt coming down. So you can understand why he's taking so much time. The 2 big bunkers on the left-hand side and the large gallery ringing 9. Their next door neighbors at 18. Beautiful shot. Let's go back to 10.
Tom Watson, this putt for par to remain 1 over par for the tournament. No, he knew it when he hit it that he'd missed it. Into 13.
Tom Kite, second shot from over 225 yards. Pulled it left, and watch out to the left side. He's between the bunker and the green, but he's a good 85 feet away. Let's go back to 9 quickly.
Second shot at Tom Weiskopf. Tom and Jack Nicklaus through 3 rounds hit the most greens. Beautiful shot. Of course, his drive was so long, I'm sure they had a movie on the flight, and now he hits it up there from, 120 yards or so. Yes, I think a lot of people would hope so. After all, Tom 4 times came in second here. Kind of painful to get that close. Tom at 1 under par. That's where he started, so he's hoping to make the turn at 1 under and get to 2 under for the tournament. Weiskopf was second in 1972, second in 1974, second in 1975, and second in 1969. So a litany of frustration for the big fella. Meanwhile, Ballesteros, the youngest Masters champion in that magnificent show he put on back in 1980. Let's go to 11.
Jack Nicklaus, top of the hill, got to get over the water. And this hole has really penalized him the last couple of days. A 6 and a second round of 5 yesterday. Well, he's on the right-hand side of the green, but even that should give him some degree of satisfaction, because that's the first time in the last 3 days he's been able to hit the green. Curtis Strange up there with him. Strange is +1. Nicklaus is +5 now. Wind, it appears, is blowing. Let's go back to 10.
Bob Gilder from the right side of the fairway. Nice looking golf shot. Little need be said about that shot. Earlier at the 10th hole, Raymond Floyd from the far right-hand edge of the rough, going down the right side. And back to 9.
Ballesteros for birdie. What was it T.S. Eliot said about April is the cruelest month? Breeding lilacs out of dead land, mixing memory and desire, and stirring dull roots with dull rain. Well, maybe not now, and not here. But for some of the golfers, they'll feel that way by the time of the end comes. Well, if that's so, Seve, you've sure got a chance, because you're 6 behind Craig Stadler. And there's Craig coming down 9. Coming off a par at 8. To repeat, he had birdies at 2, 6, and 7. Yesterday, he played the front side even and the back 9 at 5 under. And today, he has picked up 3 birdies and no bogeys. He's playing with Jerry Pate. Pate started off. Meanwhile, at 9, here's Tom Weiskopf. Birdie. So Weiskopf is at 2 under. That catches Kyte, Pohl, and Ballesteros. But he's still 6 back of the man out in the middle of the fairway, Craig Stadler. Jerry Pate now is ready for his second shot. Pate was saying yesterday that his game has really been brought around from his rookie year because of his friendship and the tutelage of Tom Weiskopf. So he's following the teacher, and we'll go to 13.
A very big hole for Tom Kite. Tom Kite was 2 over starting the day, went out in 32. Key holes he parred 10, 11, and 12. 2 under par, but now he has to make his move at 13, 14, and 15. About 90 feet. Keep moving, ball. What an excellent lag putt from 90 feet. He put it to within 4 feet of the hole. And if he has a chance, he has to birdie 2 of the next 3 holes and post that score, because Craig Statler still has the back 9 at Amen Corner to go as we go back to 9.
And here he is, Kenny. Craig Stadler, his second shot. He's at 8 under, 3 under for the front side. He did it. He said get over the bunker, and the ball sure hurt him. And he is just about flagstick high to the left. So Stadler, we've got that compliment from Jack Nicklaus, and it would appear as if his day is almost upon us. Craig Stadler, the leader in this final round at 8 under par. Kyte, Pohl, Ballesteros, and Weiskopf 6 shots behind.
Where moments ago, Raymond Floyd with this putt to go even par for the tournament. Raymond certainly no stranger to the pressure or the course. And over to 13.
And now Tom Kite, who started the tournament with 76, then came to 69, then 73. No one even spoke about him. It's like the Lone Ranger. Where does he come from? Has this putt to go 3 under and second all by himself. Yes, Tom. It got in the side, but he goes to 3 under. 5 behind Craig Statler, but Statler still has 10, 11, and 12 to face him. So it's not over yet. Let's go to 10.
And Bob Gilder playing with Raymond Floyd, who made birdie earlier. This 4-3 as well. Well done. And over to 9.
Earlier, this was Jerry Pate's shot at 9. Now we'll be going to Live and his lengthy birdie putt. Let's go to 11.
Tom Watson, second shot at 11. And a dandy. Back to 9.
Where Jerry Pate putting out for par. And he'll make the turn at even. You know, they say we learn from history. Jerry Pate, for instance, has been in 6 fourth-round dramas here, and he has shot 4 of them under par. Stadler has been in 3 previous 4th rounds at Augusta National and never shot subpar. All 3 he was over. Not right now. This for birdie. That's all he has to do, really, is make pars. He's 5 shots ahead of the field. So Krag will make the turn 3 under for the day, 8 under for the tournament, and 5 shots in front of Tom Kite. So for a fellow who started playing at the age of 5, won some junior championships, worked his way onto the tour, he's sitting in the tall cotton down here in Georgia. Craig Stadler at 8 under par, trying to run away. Well, it happens to the best of them. Tom Weiskopf, coming off the tee at 10, is in the woods. Steve Melnick is at his position. I assume he's already hit a provisional, huh, Steve?
Yes, he has, Ben. It appears that Tom has his own version of an Easter egg hunt today. I'm sure he's not too pleased with it. He's hit a provisional ball in the fairway. His first ball we've not found. And over to 12.
That's Curtis Strange. On this par 3, got the ball on the putting surface, but a long way away. And 5-time champion Jack Nicklaus will be next to hit. That's the scoring summary. And first 3 rounds. Look at day number 1. Nicklaus was the only one under par. And then yesterday, under just about ideal weather conditions, there were 21 players who were under. And you can see the difference that the weather has made. First 2 days were very difficult. Most of the players have been hitting a 6-iron, and that's what that is. On the green. Perhaps 25 feet away, but anytime you get it on the green, take a deep sigh of relief. Back over to 10.
Where Tom Weiskopf did not find his first tee shot, this will be his 4th shot to the 10th hole. Ken Venturi, you know Tom very well. I think composure now becomes a problem for Tom.
Well, frustration is there too, because that's a lonely time looking for the ball, and you got a lot of people looking for it, and you don't know how you cannot find the ball. That many people there around there, and he has been that may be the only drive he's missed all week. He has played superb, Steve.
Well, the course sometimes offers a place to miss it, but not here on. Safely on. Rather dejected, I might imagine. Seve Ballesteros playing with Tom in good position, but there are some overhanging limbs from the pines that will present a problem to him. And over to 11.
Tom Watson. He was about 10 feet away. That was for his birdie. And you have just, well, he'll wait a while. And now he'll go for par. Watson started the day at even par, is now +2. A lot of people were looking for him to come shooting out of the pack. Challenge Stadler. Stays at +2. Back to 10.
Seve with a 6-iron for his second shot. That was Stadler you saw waiting on the tee. Seve's taking it out to the right, and it stayed there. And he got a nice break. It hit some people, and there you see it on the fringe of the green. Well, Krag Stadler with 9 holes to play here in the 4th round. They might be looking for a green jacket his size right now. You know, there's a certain irony to Krag leading here because he is a decided left-to-right player, and it's generally believed that it takes a right-to-left player to win here. Ken Venturi, would you call that a myth?
No, not really, but I will tell you, talk about Stadler, you're talking about a man with talent. He can make it go both ways, and he can make it go right to left. I watched him play this week some, and he can go left to right at will, but he can also make it go right to left, Steve.
The fact that he's long doesn't hurt.
No.
Well placed in the fairway. Very nice. And back to 11.
Raymond Floyd about to strike it for the 2nd time on this hole. Talk about bringing it right to left. This is a place you need to do that. That didn't come quite left enough. Meantime, over at 12, here is Nicklaus for birdie. 20, maybe 25 feet. Par 3. Let's go to 14.
Tom Kite scrambling on this par 4. This will be his 3rd shot. His tee shot was wide left, and then he had to come around a Georgia pine. As you can see, he's left himself 40 feet from the cup. 5 shots back of the leader, Krag Stadler. Just beautiful shot coming over the green. Let's go to 10.
Tom Weiskopf. This is for bogey 5. I'm sure Tom can't help but wonder why he couldn't find his ball on this hole. There you see the pace of the greens here. Very, very fast, but eminently fair. Seve is on the right fringe, some 32 feet from the pin, and he is at the very fastest part of this green. And over to 18.
Where Calvin Pete prepares for a birdie effort. He's below the slope, so he has to take a good full shot at it to get it up there. Calvin is 7 over, 1 over for the day. Nope, ran out of gas. Back to 12.
And Dan Pohl. So very, very strong.
Get up.
Good shot. Back to 10.
Seve, an absolutely superb fast greens putter. Certainly no surprise that he has won here and continues to play well. This for birdie 3 to put him 3 under par and tied with Tom Kite for second. Well, there you see what we were referring to earlier. Very, very fast from there. Back in the fairway, you see Craig Stadler and his playing partner, Jerry Pate, waiting to play their second shot. So this magnificent setting here at this 10th green. Bob Jones called this the most beautiful hole in golf, and it's every bit as difficult as it is breathtaking. Seve looking right back into the sun with a shadow there, as you see, running across his line. It does present some problem trying to pick out the line of the putt when you have a difference in light and darkness there. He has that short putt for his bogey 5. And back to 14.
Tom Kite, par putt. And so the last 3 rounds, he has parred this 14th. And he remains 3 under. Let's go back to 10.
This for bogey 5 for Seve to drop him back to 1 under par for the tournament. Tom Weiskopf putting for 6. Ken Venturi. Seve is somewhat slower perhaps than Tom. Might this affect his play today?
Well, first thing at hand, he said yesterday he enjoyed playing with Pate because they had the same tempo, same swings. But right here, he needs this desperately, Steve. That's a shame there. I played golf with him last Sunday, and I never saw him in a better frame of mind, and he was playing so well, and I'm really sad to see that happen to him.
Well, it's truly unfortunate because, as we said, I'm sure he can't imagine why someone didn't find his ball.
Well, you always think the worst. Did someone take it, or did this or that, and you're thinking, and you're so down. But back out in the fairway now, Steve.
Jerry Pate with perhaps the best golf swing in the game today.
Come on, get in.
Well done. Excellent position for a birdie try. And once again, Craig Stadler has driven it a long, long way. Craig with a 7-iron. The wind at his back. a relatively simple shot for Krag.
He cannot hit the ball that far unless you can make it go right to left from there, Steve. I guarantee you.
We have seen so many. Oh, he got a nice break. We've seen so many balls today hit the green and roll way down to the left of the green. Krag actually got a nice break. The ball didn't roll any farther. And back to 12.
Watson putting for par. And as usual, firmly in. Moments ago, Dan Pohl playing with Watson from 15 feet for birdie. And Pohl goes to 3 under. So up at the top of the leaderboard alone is Craig Stadler. At 3 under, Tom Kite and Dan Pohl. Ballesteros at 1 under. Floyd and Pate at even par.
As the weather improved, so did the play. Thursday was a thoroughly forgettable day in Masters history, and the stroke averaged 77. Friday wasn't that much better as far as comfort was concerned, but the average stroke was 75, 3 over. Yesterday came up more like a Georgia day that you'd expect this time of year, and you can see they were just under par. Today it is sunny and cool and a little blustery at spots. I would think, however, there's no wind down in that cathedral-like setting at 10, Steve. It sounds, because of the acoustics from the trees, those second shots sound like rifle cracks.
Well, it is a lovely setting, as you said, Vin, for a second shot. And the flag, if anything now, is laying rather limply, unlike what we've seen earlier in the week. Krag, as we said, got very lucky that his ball didn't roll any further. And he has a very simple little chip back up the hill. Well done. There's a vast difference, of course, in the way Craig Stadler has played this hole and Tom Weiskopf. Craig has played this hole 2 under par for the week. And a hole generally regarded to be among the most difficult here at Augusta. There's a 7-shot difference in Craig and Tom playing this hole. Craig being 2 under, and Craig and Tom that is, being 5 over. And over to 13.
Nicklaus's second shot from about 200 yards, and it's moving right, and watch out creek. It's going to find it. And that it did as we go forward to 15.
Tom Kite will lay up short of the water here at the 500 yards par 5. And probably sensibly, since the wind is gusting in his face, sometimes drops. And he is the best wedge player probably in the game. Let's go back to the 11th.
Ballesteros and Weiskopf both have hit tremendous tee shots, further than we've seen anybody. Many of the players earlier in the week were hitting 3s and 4s, but Ballesteros doesn't have that far as we go back to 10.
Jerry Pate from 16 feet for a birdie 3. Virtually no weakness in Jerry's game. Excellent putter, aggressive, confident. Go.
Hit it, Paul. Get in there.
Well done. Well done. And over to 11.
Weiskopf looking down. Ballesteros has already hit, and he's safely on. looking good. Oh, wonderful shot from Weiskopf. 5 feet, maybe 6. Perhaps the best of the day. Earlier, that's Ballesteros. Over at 12 in the meantime, Bob Gilder. This is Floyd earlier at the par 3. And this might be the best shot of the day, too. Raymond. Let's go to 13.
Well, I have a feeling that Jack is going to go in the water and play it. And why is it always that we always get a hand when you go in the water to play a shot, Steve?
Well, I think it creates a bit of excitement for those watching because, let's face it, Kenny, they've been in there before.
I've seen people sitting there since for 4 or 5 hours as we go back to 15, forward to 15.
Tom Kite, third shot, tied for second at 3 under par, 75 yards.
Down.
Better get down. No. Well, that's a very ticklish little chip from there. Downhill, slick, and side hill. Not by his standards the most distinguished shot, but this wedge shot is really psyching out the players, particularly this half wedge. Meanwhile, we'll go back to the 12th.
And this is Floyd for birdie. Never. Floyd stays at even par. Over to 13.
Jack trying to make the decision to play. He's going back down, and while we wait for Jack to unlace the shoe, Statler is 8 under, has played 10 now, but Kyte and Pohl 3 under, Ballesteros 1, and Pate 1 now through 10, and Floyd missed an opportunity at 12, remains at even par. And you got 4 players at 1 over: Hayes, Nelson, Strange, and Weiskopf, and Bean and Watson at 2 over as we go to 11 first.
And here's Ballesteros for birdie. Uphill, right to left. Back over to 13.
Jack ready to go after it. Has to be a frustrating hole for him because Jack has made 3 5 and this hole has yet to birdie it. And this may be the first birdie if he makes that putt. Fine shot from there. Puts it by about 15, 18 feet. Not all bad. Jack at 5 over has to be a little disappointed with that score for sure. And we'll go back to 11 quickly.
And this will be Ballesteros for his par. That's not an easy putt. But he makes it look that way, doesn't he? Now Weiskopf, who hit perhaps the best shot of the day, will putt for birdie. We go to 15 first.
Tom Kite about to chip here from behind the green, and he'd dearly love to hold this one if he's going to overhaul Stadler. Has a chance. No. Had a look in the side door. Really needed a birdie at this par 5 as well as the birdie he earned at the 13th. And now we go back to the 11th.
Speaking, Ben, of needing birdies, Weiskopf. Not many of those. Weiskopf gets back to level. And the frowns and scowls at 10 turn into smiles at 11. But 12 is yet to come. the meantime, back up in the fairway, they'll have to wait a minute till Weiskopf and his caddy get out of the way. The last group of the day, Craig Stadler, the leader, and Jerry Pate, who is 1 under and 7 behind Stadler's -8 lead. And they're both in good shape. Here's the way 11 has played so far. 14 birdies, 47 bogeys, and those others have come to some big names too. Stroke average of 4.36. The wind is, at the moment, reasonably calm. It's like Pate's away. I would think, Ken Venturi, it's very hard to make yourself with the pin where it is.
The only man that would go at it would be Weiskopf, coming off 7 being so hot. But I'll tell you what, you got to give it air right, Pat.
And that is what Pate did. Oh, what a shot. He brought it in right to left and just past the flagstick. About 10 feet away. Now Stadler. He really has to fight the water a little bit more. He's left of where Pate's ball was.
He has more of a left to right shot, which he can play too. He'll put it at the middle of the green, I would suspect, Pat.
Stadler. Front of the green. Now to 15.
An insidious little putt. And there really goes the last chance, unless Craig Stadler is going to come back to the field. That is for Tom Kite, who drops from 3 to 2 under par, and we'll go back to the 13th.
Jack Nicklaus now trying to make his first birdie on this hole in 4 days. About 15 feet downhill. It'll move a little bit to his left. But not that much. And he puts it by about 3 feet. So Jack has failed to make par, to birdie this hole and have this for par. A frustrating hole for him, which one he is sure with his length would birdie at least a couple times. But what can you say? He's the greatest holder of titles in the history of golf, and other than that, there's not much more to say. And his 4th 5. And Jack Nicklaus will leave here 5 over, 4 over for today's round. A frustrating day for Jack. As he walks over the bridge to the 14th hole, we go back to the fairway of Dan Pohl and Tom Watson. Pohl drove to the right. Watson drove absolutely perfect. Pohl is looking at, I would say, better than 210 yards. And if you think he's not strong, he's going with an iron. He's got about 30 feet to clear the water to get to the hole. And that's right on line. If that's the right club, you just may see something spectacular here. Check it out. Absolutely brilliant. What a shot. That didn't do anything but just go dead straight, and he puts it by about 10 feet. Now he makes that putt. Watch out, we have another ball game going, so things aren't over yet. Tom Watson now from about 200 yards himself with an iron, bringing it right to left and drawing it a little too much, and it'll be left of the flag and past. So he's on the back of the green, and he'll be 30, 35 feet away. But what a brilliant shot by Dan Pohl, who was 3 under, and figuring that Statler has a very long, difficult putt at 11. If Pohl can make this, he can turn it around. And let's go to 16 now.
And our first look at this beautiful short hole, the pin right on the back today, playing 185 yards.
Come on, man. Come on,
right on the stick. And just catches the bank, and that'll strew right away down through to 11.
Here's the leader, Stadler. from perhaps 70 feet away, uphill. Tough putt, but what a great putt. Still a little bit of a challenge. Stadler at 8 under. If he misses and Pohl makes, it is a new race. You can see that Stadler, if he misses, would go to 7. And Pohl would go to 5. So what looks like a substantial lead right now could change considerably. And don't forget Kyte either at 16. Here's Pate now at 11. That's for birdie 3. Burn the side. Pate will go ahead and finish. Stadler backs out. Playing conditions at the moment here in the heart of the Amen corner are just about ideal. Not much wind, which can be so troublesome. Par for Pate, stays at -1. And now Stadler. About 3 feet. Over to 16.
Tom Kite prepares to putt for a 2, and it's uphill. I don't think we'll see him leave it short. A very gallant attempt, and my word, he certainly needed that. Little unlucky with his tee shot. It only pitched 4 or 5 yards from the hole, but spun right down the slope. So a par for Tom, but that leaves him at 2 under, and he's still 6 shots behind the leader. Through to 13.
Dan Pohl and his caddy having a discussion, and Dan seems to think it will go more left than the caddy was saying. And up until today, this may be the most important putt of the tournament. Got to turn, got to turn. And maybe the caddy read it right, because Dan thought it would swing much more. But if it was easier, it would have turned that much more. If he had the right speed, that ball would have turned right into the hole. But I can't express more than what a fabulous second shot he played into here. So Dan Pohl now, this for birdie, will put him at 4 under, 4 shots behind Statler, who made that great putt 11, which tests his nerve, and he's got him. So Pohl makes birdie. Disappointing not making eagle as we go forward to 14.
Jack Nicklaus, his second shot on the par 4. And you can see he rolls right up alongside Curtis Strange, who struck his second shot just moments ago. Nicklaus at 5 over. Let's go back to 13.
Watson now, this is for birdie. He was about 35 feet. Coming down the hill, sweep from right to left, went by this far. Watson 2 over the tournament. Makes birdie, gets him to 1 over for the tournament, 1 over for the day. Started the day even. And he's going to leave here, but he's a long way back, 9 shots back. Now the group of Floyd and Bob Gilder. Gilder has hit his second shot Shot short here and laid up, but Floyd is going to go for it. I can remember so well, so many times, the same position that he was hitting this shot with his 5-wood, but he's going to have a little longer here, I believe. He's looking at close to 220, maybe 25 yards. Little hanging lie. Ball should move right to left. You got to hold it up if you expect to get it close to the hole. There's a score. Strange. Floyd and Weiskopf tied it even right there. Watson got one back here, but now Floyd. I tell you what, I don't know whether he is going to try to reach it from there. I can't believe I think he's laying up. There's no doubt about he's laying up. Because you'd have to have some wood in your hand if you expect to go to the green, so he's going to lay up here. And he'll put it right in dead center in the fairway and laid back, which is a good move. You don't want to get too close to the creek here because it's a tough little pitch and he can get more spin from where Gilder and Floyd are, and that's the exact place you want to put it. So he has played here before to know that as we go back to 12, Pat Summerall.
And there's been a long wait here. Weiskopf hit it in the bunker, had to take an unplayable. So he is now putting for bogey at the par 3 12th. Boy, this par 3 12th hole has been most unkind to that fellow. That's a double. He goes to +2. Back to 18.
Yutaka Hagawa from underneath the tower, left-handing it onto the green. Lovely shot for the left-hander. He won't be 25 until December. He won the Japan Open. He also won the Japan Golf Series, defeating Isao Aoki in a sudden death playoff. And this is his first Masters, and he's done exceptionally well. He also has a very nice attitude. He's at even par for this final round, so he has a chance for birdie, and he's at 4 over for the tournament. Yutaka Hagawa, the fourth left-hander that we know of to play in the Masters. Bob Charles played in 15 of them, and Charles had a great Masters in 1968 where he finished 2 under. Gene Farrell played once. Sam Adams played here once and didn't make the cut. And now here is Yutaka Hagawa. Larry Nelson, who started the day 4 over, comes to 18 at even par. He was very unhappy with his approach, however. As you can see, he has left it way below the flagstick. So it'll be a great effort to get down in 2, and he'd come in with 68 at even par. And let's go back to 14.
Moments ago, Jack Nicklaus, birdie putt. The Master, who won his last Masters in 1975 to 18.
Larry Nelson for birdie. A birdie effort anyway. And he has plenty left for his par. Wind has really picked up here. I think it's gusted to 20, maybe 25 miles an hour a couple of moments ago. Almost blew the flagstick right out of the cup. So Hagawa and Nelson arriving at 18. Hagawa hit a big towering fade, being left-handed, and he hit the ball under the photographer's platform. We'll go to 12.
And Jerry Pate is now set to hit. Weiskopf and Ballesteros have finished. They have both had all kinds of problems. 7-iron for Pate.
Get left. Get left. Going to be right.
Hold it. Hold it. And it finally does settle on the slope, not on the green. As Vin Scully said a minute ago, the wind seems to have picked up. If few minutes ago was very quiet and very still, but now the wind will be blowing to Stadler's right to left. 6 iron he has. A little bit lower, and it looks like a little bit better. Look out now. Not in the bunker. Back edge of the green over to 11.
Dan Pohl, and that's the longest drive for his second shot. He was only 100 yards away, but he's into the gallery. 4 shots off the pace of Craig Stadler. Pohl coming off that birdie at 13. Let's go to 17.
And this is your first look at the 400-yard par 4 17th. Second shot, Tom Kite, left side of the fairway. Pin to the far right-hand position. Right behind that bunker. Kite in third place at the present time, and he's got a shot at a birdie here. That will pull up a little bit, but, well, it's going to roll back down the hill and off the green. So he had a shot at a birdie to 18.
Larry Nelson's effort for par gets away. So being so far away, it took him 3 putts. Here's Yutaka Hagawa saying sayonara to his first Masters on a high note. Knocks it in for par. Konnichiwa. Good afternoon. Meanwhile, there's still work to do for Craig Stadler and the rest of the field. Craig is leading at 8 under par.
Craig Stadler and Jerry Pate at the 12th hole. We were a little bit incorrect about what happened to Tom Weiskopf earlier. It was only a bogey that he made. So he is +1 now instead of +2. Here's Stadler, the leader, by 4 over Pohl. He's got some work still to do. Pate's ball did hang up on the slope. We go to 13.
Weiskopf, who hooked his tee shot on this hole, trying to cut the corner, caught the trees, and now he's going to try to play it off the rocks. He's got a little bit of turf behind him, but he's going to have to chop right down it with a sand wedge, and with that double click, it sounded like it hit it again. Let's go to 14 quickly.
Dan Pohl, this is for par. He chipped out of the gallery, came by the hole, and you can see he now is going to lose a stroke to par. And now 3 under and 5 behind the leader, Craig Stadler. Let's go ahead now to 17.
Tom Kite from the front fringe. This is his third shot to the par 4. Have to come up the hill. That pin is cut in the very highest point of this putting surface, 12 feet from the right edge. Nice little chip puts him in good position for his par, which will keep him at 2 under for the tournament. He's at 4 under for the round today. Good par in with a 68. That's the way he's played 17 so far. Done just about everything. Bogeyed it on Thursday, birdied it on Friday, and parted yesterday. Meanwhile, back at 12.
Here's Pate minutes ago. That was his second effort. And he has that work to do for par. Craig Stadler has a more difficult task. He's about 8 feet. It's a hard putt. That tells you something about how 12 plays. A double, a par, and a birdie. And now he has a bogey to go with that hand. Maybe. green jacket will look very handsome with that outfit. Right to 17.
Kyte to stay in third place at 2 under. That's for par from 2.5 feet. Got it. So Tom Kite, consistent top 10 finisher here at Augusta, to 13.
Seve Ballesteros, second shot here to the 13th hole. Looking at somewhere, I would say, close to 200. A little better than 200 yards. Look out, Krag. Look out. Carry. Not to be. Not to be. And he let it go to the right. Weiskopf, who has had his problems, was in the rocks, hit the rocks, went in the trees. And he's way right again as we go back to 12.
And here's Jerry Pate for par. That keeps him at -1 as they head to 13. Now to 13.
Here is Tom's third shot. Through the trees and into the gallery. So Tom will be there in 3. That 7 at the 10th hole had to be very disappointing. It took all the air out of it, and then fine birdie at 11. He got the drop at 12 because he stood on a sprinkler head. He got a drop from there, so making that bogey, which corrected from 2 over to 1 over. And now Tom, who started the day at 1 under, is now 1 over, and unless a miracle happens here, he will add some more to that over par. What a beautiful hole, lined by the gallery. What a glorious hole. It spins around to the left, and on the tee, Jerry Pate.
How about a layup?
How about a layup means he did not hit it very well.
I will not turn it loose. Turn it loose on this ball. I think too many.
Came back in the fairway, but it definitely will be a layup. He cannot reach the green. Now here's a man. He is leading the tournament. He's 7 under, but he can't afford to do what Weiskopf did, go left.
Shot, Krag.
And a compliment from Jerry Pate. And exactly where he'd like to be. Just perfect. Rolls down the hill. He's absolutely perfect. And now to Tom Weiskopf. This is his 4th shot. Tom's got to be a good 135 yards from the flag. Got to bring it in very high. He has about, I would say, somewhere in the vicinity of 30, 35 feet to carry the creek from there. Get up, ball, get up. And that's not to be. So that's disappointing to Tom. You know, even though there is a winner or someone is going to win, there is something else you watch for here too. The low 24 and ties get invited back, and when you start looking at that, Tom now has to start looking at that. But as we look at the scoreboard, Krag Statler 7 under par through 12 holes. Dan Pohl 3, Kyte 2, and Pate 1.
This is the 18th hole at the Augusta National, with Krag Stadler holding on to a 4-shot lead. The winds have come up, and Tom Kite, one of the pursuers at 2 under, is hidden away in the woods like a guilty secret, so he's not going to be up here for a while. There he is. Kyte coming off the tee at 18 in the woods. Let's go back to 13.
Tom Weiskopf playing his 6th shot and puts it by. And as time passes at Augusta, where have all the flowers gone? And today, another green jacket has slipped away from the greatest talent, I think, one of the greatest talents I've ever seen to play as we go to the 14th.
This is earlier. Raymond Floyd, even 2nd shot at this par 4. Very nice. Back to 13.
Seve playing out of almost the identical spot that Jack Nicklaus did. He played out of this creek one day before during this week. How about that? And not only did he get it out, he put some bite on it and put it almost to exactly the same spot that Jack Nicklaus put his. So you'll know what this putt does. It'll move a little bit to the left, but not as much as everybody thinks today. And Tom marks his ball and will be putting for 7. What a shame. Back to 18.
And amidst the towering pines and the magnolia, Tom Kite. He's hitting a 3-iron. And you can see he is short of the bunker by a couple of feet. But considering he appeared to be in jail, he hit it right through the bars. It sounded like it might have glanced a tree. There was a lot of rattling down in there, so it was an excellent shot by Tom Kite. Steve Melnick, who's been at 10 all during the tournament, is up here at 18. That has to be a great escape.
Well, there's certainly no openings in that part of the woods there, Van. He got very lucky to even get the ball in the vicinity of the green from there.
So Tom Kite, who started the day a +2, he's 4 under coming to 18. Let's go to 13. We'll check it and go to 15.
Tom Watson at the top of the hill has 242 yards to the hole at this 500 yards par 5, and he's set to go. Oh yes, just perilously hanging at the top of the bank, and even more important in terms of the leadership, Dan Pohl, with this immense strength. A former baseball player, has a very short swing, and look what that was the accomplishment yesterday. Iron club. And that has got to travel 232 yards. And I do believe, yes, there it goes. Fodder for moccasins. And back to the 18th.
Round of applause for Tom Kite, who in the last 7 years has been in the top 10 6 times, and steaming in at 2 under. You can just about say it'll be 7 times in the last 8 years at Augusta National. Kite has finished in the top 10. Made a remarkable shot with that 3-iron. We'll go back to 13.
And the sadness of this hole. This is for 7. Why? Why is the question. Triple bogey at 10. Now we'll have that for triple bogey at 13. You look at him and his head is low, and if you've never been there, you don't know what it feels like. Ballesteros now. This is for 5. And yes, Ballesteros remains even par through 13 holes. Not happy though, 7 shots behind the leader. As 13 says goodbye to Tom Weiskopf, we go to 18.
And the delicate chip by Tom Kite checked up a little more than he wanted. When he hit it, I think he thought he was going to bump and run it, but it checked up on him. Back to 13.
Craig Statler, who drove it absolutely perfect, and I can tell you right now, he's not laying up. As strong as he is, he's got to give it air, though. Watch out, Creek. We're going to get another customer. And there it is. Now, I don't know, I shouldn't question, but Dan Pohl is in the water. He doesn't know that, but he must know he has a 4-shot lead. Steve, what would be your thoughts? I know what mine would be. What would be yours?
Well, obviously, Kenny, there's so much more room to the left on this 13th hole, but as you and I have talked often, it's not the number of birdies that someone makes, it's the fewest mistakes that they make that wins tournaments. And Krag just made a mistake that he should not have made.
Go to 15 now.
Dan Pohl playing his 4th shot, having birdied the hole on 3 successive days, and when he needed it most. Well, that was an elegant shot indeed. When he needed it most, hit the water with an iron club. Playing in his first Masters, and what a distinguished effort. And now back to the 13th.
Jerry Pate is not really going to check the pin as much as he has paced it from his golf ball to exactly how far the hole is. And he is almost the exactly same distance that Tom Weiskopf had. But we'll be back in just a little bit just to see Statler at 7, Pohl at 3, Kyte at 2, Pate still at 1. Jerry Pate's 3rd shot on the way, going right over the top of the flag. Now draws back down the hill. It'll be left, moving down some 20-25 feet left of the hole. I want to take a guess with the crowd and the reaction, the way that the ball jumped in short of the water and across, and from the applause and the oohs and ahs, I have a feeling it might have stayed on the bank. I don't know, I'm just taking a guess, but I have a feeling he's might and possibly can play it. And I'll tell you, yes, he can play it almost now. The caddy has left the bag on the other side of the creek. Krag has 1 club, the caddy has the putter, so he did get a good break. The breaks always seem to happen to the good players because they're playing the best. The better I play, the luckier we get, they say. He's taking a look at it. I can't see down there. We can't see. We'll see you in a minute. I would suspect he's going to play it. There's no doubt about that. Now, here comes the choice. One thing he has to do, he has to make sure that he hits it hard enough to get it out. I would think that anything ticklish or trying to take any kind of gamble would be not the right thing. Well, he did get a break. There you are. It did jump the creek and stayed on the side of the hill. So the oohs and ahs of the gallery were right. It'll come out high. And comes out very well. So you might say he can thank that because we've seen players who have been in the creek, laid back, pitched it back in the creek, so he can count that good break, even though 7 under par. That is a big plus for him. So Stadler now just 10, 11 feet away, and Pate 25 feet away. We go to 15. Ben Wright.
Just a few moments ago, this was Tom Watson defending his title with such distinction. A wonderful birdie for him. Gets back to level par. And now Dan Pohl with a sliding left to right, perfectly in the center, making the most gutsy par imaginable as we go back to the 13th.
Jerry Pate replacing his ball. A very fast putt he's going to have. It'll move left to right. Pate at 1 under. I just can't say enough about that good break, and thinking about, again, he has a 4-shot lead over Dan Pohl, but if Pohl put in the water had reached the green and that did not get on the side of the bank, would have problems as we go to 18.
Tom Kite was putting for par at 18. And winds up with a bogey at 18 and finished the tournament at 1 under, tied at least for the moment with Jerry Pate in 3rd place with Dan Pohl and Craig Stadler atop the heap. Let's go to 16.
Tom Watson. 5 iron. And just that fraction short, and that one takes the slope, and although it only pitched some 6 yards away from the hole, it's just hung on, and now he finishes about 8 or 9. And Dan Pohl, who is 1 under for this hole so far in the first 3 rounds. Well, it's a good high shot, dropping right by the step. What a marvellous shot. Well, well, well. So Pohl looks assured of a 2 here, back to 13.
Both players heard that roar at 16, which is not that far away. This is Jerry Pate for birdie, 25, 30 feet. Look out. Just lost it. So the little break that Craig Statler got means more and more now with Dan Pohl hitting it so close at 16. We're looking at a more important putt than we had before or thought about. Putt should move a little bit to his right. It's almost straight. It's very swift. Not one you want to hit very hard. If it goes in, it'll be going very softly. Very softly, but the wrong line. So he'll tap in for 5. And all in all, it's not a good putt, not birdie, but all being equal, a 5 is a good score from where he started. Pate now for 5. Pate at 1 under. Started the day at 2 under. He's 1 over for today's round. Statler 2 under for today's round, which got him to 7 under through 13 holes. So Pate and Stadler leave the 13th hole, and Statler 5 holes away to see if he can become the 1982 Masters champion. Both players walk across the bridge to 14. And we move to 16.
Where Tom Watson surveys this putt going up the hill. Tom, though, must surely rue the first day when he took 6 on this hole going into the water. But it's going to be this one for a 2, and if he can knock it into the hole, he gets to 1 under par. Well, the pin just on top of a ledge there, and once you get over the top of the brow, of course, it races away very quickly indeed. Tom, who says he's been shortening his putting stroke a little this week to cope with these very slick greens, also been using his hands a little more and his arms a little less. Tom then, this is par at the 16th. To 18.
Gary Player. A birdie effort that will be about 3 feet short. Winner 3 times of the Masters, twice second. Been playing here since '57. Will go to 16.
And that's the birdie putt. Magnificent 2 there for Dan Pohl. That takes him to 4 under par, just 3 behind Craig Stadler. Back to 14.
Jerry Pate. You'd like to start this out right, bring it back left. Fairway slopes to the right. And he is way right. The gallery having to back off. Pate 140 yards away from the green here on 14. And now Statler. And he's rolling also right. So both of them with that sloping fairway, not getting the ball far enough left, and As Stadler's ball rolls further into the gallery, he will have a pretty good approach. Tom Weiskopf, number 13, well, he salved some wounds here. This is a birdie putt. Weiskopf with that putt, now 3 over. Stadler and Pate, the last twosome here, going through 14 as they approach their second shots. Let's go ahead to 15.
And we are looking at Ray Floyd with a really slick downhill putt. There you see 3 eagles before today. They were all recorded yesterday by Litsky, David Graham, and Seve Ballesteros. And this is a really fast putt with a little left to right break. Just enough to take it across the face of the hole. And Ray Floyd, who started the day at 1 under par, has regressed to level par, and that is how he hopefully will remain as we go forward to the 18th.
This was Gary Player bringing down the curtain. So Gary Player leading 18 at 4 over for the tournament and 2 over for the day. 3 times Masters champion. Back to 16. 50.
Speckled shadows as the sun drops behind the pines on the left of the pond at 16, and Ray Floyd for par. This time up the slope, it is most apparent as you look from behind to remain at level.
Well, the expected challenge from the 1976 Masters champion
Never really materialized today. But another distinguished performance. Anything around about par is terrific as we go to the 17th.
Curtis Strange currently 1 over par for the tournament, even par for his round today. This is his 3rd shot as he missed the green off to the right. Rolls it up very nicely. And he'll have that left for his par. Strange, the Wake Forest product, who one time yesterday was atop the leaderboard, playing with Jack Nicklaus. This will not be a final round of the Masters to remember for Nicklaus, who is 4 over par for the tournament, 3 over for his round. This was Jack's 2nd shot, far right-hand side.
Oh, Jack. Honest to goodness.
Talking to himself. Made the green, but almost 30 feet away. Now we are live as Nicklaus, who birdied this hole yesterday. In fact, he's birdied it twice in 3 days. Sizing up this putt. Did not read it well as it broke to his right. And a little smirk by Jack. 2.5 feet left for his par, and we go back to 14.
Well, Jerry Pate ready to hit his 2nd shot. He's in pretty good shape. Stadler, when we get ready for his shot, may have more difficulty. He's further right. And that's not where you want to be. Let's go ahead to 16.
Raymond Floyd as the breeze comes up slightly against, 4 iron. Well, he's got plenty of height on it. And a very good shot. So few people have been past this pin today, and that leaves Raymond on the back of the green where the pin is, but through to 14.
Well, Craig Stadler with the pressure on, the lead, 7 under. Had a shot that was very, very difficult, but he was able to pull it off in pretty good shape as he was over the pin, beyond the pin. He's on the fringe. Let's go to 15.
Tom Weiskopf, looking into the sunlight, has 247 yards to the center of the green and about 250 to the flagstick. Second shot at the par 5 15th. Into the gallery on the right. Most extraordinary run he's had on this inward half. Not even a par since he made the turn. 2 triple bogeys, 1 bogey and birdies at the 11th and 14th. And we'll go forward to the 17th.
Second shot of Tom Watson. Keep in mind he's put it in the front bunker. 4 out of the last 5 competitive rounds he has played here. 2 out of 3 this year. And the last 2 rounds last year, but not this time. Watson, who is at even par for the tournament and for the round, is an excellent shot at going into red figures. Now Dan Pohl. He has hit a thunderous drive. 300 yards, 100 yards left, not much more than a wedge. Front bunker comes into play with the pin on the far right-hand side. On the putting surface, 15, maybe 18 feet away. A shot at a birdie for Pohl. Keep in mind, he's just playing in his first Masters, qualified by finishing 3rd in the PGA last year. Back at 14.
Jerry Pate, 3rd shot. Comes over that hill and very, very well done. Pate had a birdie in the 2nd round at this hole. Let's go ahead to 18.
The low amateur, Jody Mudd, for par, finishes at 6 over, and it means he also finishes in the top 24. So he'll be back next year, much to the delight, particularly of the people around these parts. He goes to school at Georgia Southern. He's from Louisville. Jody Mudd, top amateur, back to 14.
Craig Stadler, his 3rd shot. He had a double bogey in the 1st round at this hole. Parted the last 2 times. See how it breaks off left, and that will be a ticklish putt to hold par. Stadler 7 under, Pohl 4 under, and then Kyte and Pate 1 under. Let's take a look now at the CBS action track. See what happened on this putt. As you could see, he knew the moment he'd lost it as it started breaking left. And this isn't going to be easy. Let's go to 7.
Danny Pohl, that was for birdie. That could have pulled him within 2 shots of Statler. Par left, and we go back to 14.
Stadler again for par. Ooh. We've seen that happen all afternoon long. Just tails off left. And now he is 6 under. And a 2-shot lead over Pohl. You could just see how much pressure was on that one. A very difficult one. And now Pate. Jerry Pate with his par putt. There's Craig. Still a long ways to go to get that green jacket. Let's go to 17.
Watson, who will put the green coat on the new Masters champion. For birdie, this could put him in red figures at 1 under par for the tournament. Tom always seems to finish high here at Augusta. 177 and 80. Yes. Oh, my. Nice little turn to the left. And he finally wrenches a birdie out of the par 4 17th. Watson's been practicing back home in Kansas, so he did very well in the cold weather earlier. Pohl with his short putt for par keeps him at 4 under. Danny Joe Pohl, the pride of Mount Pleasant, Michigan, making a run at it in his first Masters. And Ken Venturi, that's not supposed to happen, is it?
Well, they say it's not, but Zeller just proved it wrong, so there is a chance. And of course, you look at Stadler, he's got to play now again.
Let's go to 15.
This is Seve Ballesteros, who hit his second shot to this point to the left and just beyond the green, coming up the putting surface. Just a little too much bite at the first bounce. And we switch to the tee at the top of the hill, or over the brow, and the last pairing of the day, Jerry Pate.
Hitting it as hard as one ever sees from him with that silky swing, and in splendid position. He says it's not long enough. Craig Stadler. Well, that definitely is long enough. That may give him an iron shot to the green, since the wind has dropped in the last half an hour or so. So there's Dan Pohl, who is only 2 strokes behind Craig Stadler, and the battle is joined.
Curtis Strange and Jack Nicklaus are approaching with Tom Watson and Dan Pohl on the tee at 18. And first, let's go to 15.
Seve Ballesteros, the expected birdie, puts him back to 1 under par. He started at 2 under, of course. So another fine Masters for the 25-year-old Spaniard. We go to the 18th.
That's Dan Pohl at 18 at 4 under, 2 behind Stadler. So from the University of Arizona, Dan Pohl coming off 18. He's tremendously strong, Steve.
Ben, I think he played a 1-iron off that tee. Dan is so long. That's all he needs.
Earlier, this was Jack Nicklaus. Approach to the 18th green. Through the first 3 rounds among the leaders, he and Weiskopf hit the most greens, but Jack Nicklaus had the most putts. And of course, that told the story. Jack's flame burned brightly, but he's a mere ember now in the ashes of this 82 Masters. As he comes to 18, he started 1 over and he's 3 over for the day. 5 times Masters winner. And of course, Tom Watson is not going to be able to duplicate the feat of successive championships. Let's go to 15.
Where Jerry Pate has the wooden club in his hand, going for the green. And that has to travel 250 yards to the hole. And he's hooked it to the bottom end of the green, and it will be a very similar position to that which Seve Ballesteros found a few moments ago. Craig Stadler, also with a wooden club, he's got to hit the ball 240 odd yards to the hole. Well, we shall assume that that's probably the best place he can miss the green, in fact, in the bunker. If you're going to miss the green on this hole, that's the safest place. And we'll go forward to the 16th.
And Seve, who had a hole-in-one here in the practice rounds and one wouldn't go amiss today. Not a bad-looking shot. And that's on the top plateau, right up there with the pin, but just half a club short. Most of the players today hitting 4 and 5 irons, but again, the wind been swirling on this hole, and moments it gets up, and then, like at the moment, it's really pretty calm. Well, the hole 170 yards, but with the pin 15 yards back of centre, it's playing 185 today, and I would think Tom can reach this with a 5-iron. Plenty of height on it, a little left though. And that one is struggling to hold up. So it looks like Tom is going to have a 13-14 yarder now coming back up the hill, and it really hasn't been his afternoon. Let's go forward to 17.
Raymond Floyd at even par for the tournament, just off the green. That's his third shot to the par 4, 12 feet of green to work with, and almost in the cup. Raymond has won over for his round today, but just hasn't been able to make the charge that he hoped to make. Back to 15.
Warm ovation for the last pairing. It's a most extraordinary fact that Craig Stadler has had a terrible time at the 4 par 5s. He made 2 birdies at the second hole, but he also made a double bogey 7 there yesterday. He made 4 pars at the 8th hole. He made a 6 and 3 pars at the 13th hole, and here he's had 3 pars so far. So if he is to don the green coat, it is not by virtue of his play at the par 5s. He also has distinguished himself out of bunkers, however. 6 out of 7 times he's been in the sand, he's got up and down in 2 strokes, which is a mighty performance, and would dearly love to do so right now, coming down the slope in the lengthening shadows. What a beautiful shot. Thought for one moment that might catch a part of the hole. Ken Venturi, it was really a sensible shot to play it into the bunker if you're going to miss the green.
Well, that was a sensible shot, too, when it hit at the green, but the best shot he played was put it by the hole and not leave it above that same length, because it's much better to putt from that length above than half that length, you know, coming down to it.
That's right. Let's go forward to the 17th.
Raymond Floyd, this is for his par to stay even for the tournament and 6 off the lead. Nicely done. Back to 15.
Club selection by Jerry Pate from the bottom end of the green. Similar shot to Seve Ballesteros. Little run up the green. Comes a little right to left at the finish. Tied for third at 1 under. With Ballesteros, Watson, and Kyte, who's finished, of course. What a good effort. Back to the 18th.
Jack Nicklaus for birdie at 18. Birdied here yesterday, but not today. So Jack will say goodbye to the 1982 Masters. and get a well-deserved ovation. He finished up 4 over and 3 over for the day. And you can see his numbers. Subpar the first and third round. Large gallery basking in the sunlight. We go back to 15.
A moment of great importance for Craig Stadler. This putt is a very difficult one. One imagines that the slope will take it left to right, but the grain is pulling it right to left. Stadler looking over at the 16th green. He doesn't want to be disturbed by a sudden burst of applause. So now this for his first birdie at the 15th of the tournament. It is not to be. So Stadler will end the tournament 1 over par for the par 5s, and we go to the 18th.
Well, that's Dan Pohl, and to give you an idea on this 405-yard par 4, hitting perhaps that 1 iron off the tee, he hit it in perfect position, coming in with defending champion Tom Watson. Pohl started at 1 over, and he is 4 under, so 5 under for the day up to here, and 2 behind Stadler. He has played this hole par, bogey, par.
Get away with it.
Nicely done for Dan Pohl. So the young man from Mount Pleasant, Michigan, the University of Arizona, in his first Masters, putting on a great show. Back to 15.
Jerry Pate has this opportunity to break the logjam in third position, go to 2 under par with the birdie. Craig Stadler has already tapped in for his par.
Yes, nicely. So Jerry Pate alone in the second place at 2 under par. 1 ahead of Kyte, Watson and Ballesteros as they go to the par 3. Clive Clark, my countryman at the 16th. How has Stadler fared here, Clive?
Well, he's really played it pretty well, Ben. He had a 2 in the first round, a par 3 in the second, and a beautiful 2 yesterday during his round of 67, which he came back in 31. Quite remarkable figures. So I'm sure he's viewing this hole with great confidence. I don't know about cool, because there's still 3 holes to play, and this hole, in fact, through the week has yielded everything from a 2 to a 7.
I'd like to remind our viewers that Clive Clark it was who made the last competitive Masters hole-in-one here at the 16th hole in 1968, having tied for 3rd in the British Open the year previously at Hoylake, behind Roberto De Vicenzo and Jack Nicklaus.
So Pate carefully weighs this one up. The breeze dropping now. 185 yards to go to the pin, which is on the back right on a little shelf. And Pate, I would imagine, being a long hitter, can reach this with a 5-iron. It's right on the pin. And a glorious shot. Well, there are several thousand people now flanking this hole, and I'm sure they're just as delighted as Jerry is. Now a critical shot for Craig Stadler, just 2 in the lead.
No. Get down.
A little bit right. And just finds the sand, which gives him a very difficult bunker shot. That is going to be fast. Through to 18.
Tom Watson, and his second shot to the 18th green moments ago. And now live, his birdie putt. So Tom will finish the tournament at 1 under, and that's how his round went today. 1 under as he pars 18. Dan Pohl is not aware that Stadler is in the bunker at 16. And Tom Watson, the defending champion, leaves center stage. By the way, stay with us. Always a wonderful moment at the end of the Masters. Chairman Hord Hardin, the defending champion, who will then relinquish the green coat to the newcomer. Whether that'll be Stadler or Pohl remains to be seen. Yesterday, by the time he got to the 13th hole, Dan Pohl was 7 over par. And then he had back-to-back eagles, and he arrives at 18 today at 4 under. That's 11 shots he has made up on his own scorecard. And now he's trailing Stadler by 2 with a birdie effort. Didn't hit it. Nope. So Dan Pohl is still in the Masters record book with back-to-back eagles yesterday. Trying to get in at 4 under, and then we'll find out about Stadler. Steve, that bunker at 16, not trying to distract from Pohl, but Stadler could be in a lot of trouble.
He's got to be very careful, Van, from where he is.
Dan Pohl, what a story. Mount Pleasant, Michigan, a virtual unknown. Who wants the ball? He said, look at those 3rd and 4th rounds. 5 under each day. Wow. Well, Dan Pohl, great finishing story. But now let's find out about Stadler and go to Clive.
This really is a difficult shot. He's got to pitch it just on that little bit of fringe. And is that a good shot? Oh my word, it's still going. Just look at that. So the man who has played this hole in 2-3-2 suddenly finds himself struggling to make a 4 at this very critical moment when he only holds a slender lead of 2. Really, the spirits must be sinking now after that brilliant start, a wonderful first 9, but shots getting away from him, and I'm sure a terribly empty feeling in the tum.
Frank.
Well, of course, Vinny, this is not the first time that it's slipped away from Krag this year.
No, if you can call it slipping away, Clive. In fact, Bobby Jones himself had something to say, referring to the pressures of a major championship. He said one's imagination runs riot, and you could substitute a name here and say, somehow I think Craig Stadler would very clearly understand what he meant.
I'm sure he would.
And, of course, I think it was Dr. Johnson who wrote the great line. He said, when a man knows he's to be hanged in a fortnight, it concentrates his mind wonderfully. And I would say that Craig Stadler is concentrating wonderfully here at 16.
Well, then, he still hasn't got an easy putt. He's a good 12, 13 yards away from the pin. And the first 2/3 of this putt goes uphill. Then it flattens out, but you're almost coming downhill at the end, so it's a very difficult one to judge. Statler then, 2 putts from here for a bogey. So that was a very brave attempt and a good-looking putt from that distance. Just less than 2 feet away from the hole, and that really must steady him down a bit after that very difficult bunker shot. He played it marvelously, but just couldn't quite get the bite. Through to 17. So Jerry Pate now has played this hole in even par, 3 threes. and got this for a 2 to go 3 under par, just 1 behind Pohl. So Pate is making his charge, and of course that can't make it any easier for Craig Stadler, who now finds himself with this 18-incher for a 1-over bogey on the 16th hole. And still a little bit of work to do. So Stadler quickly nudges it into the hole. He is now 5 under par as he goes to the 17th hole, just 1 shot ahead of Dan Pohl. There's your check on the leaderboard. Pate with that fine birdie moving up into 3rd place, but through to 17.
And just a moment ago, the second shot of Seve Ballesteros, youngest Masters champion ever, and he's in fine shape for a birdie possibility which could move him into undisputed possession of 4th place. This could put him to 2 under par. It's about 10 feet above the cup. This putt will break to his left. Meanwhile, 400 yards away on the tee is Craig Statler, reeling a little bit. Front 9, he birdied number 2, number 6, number 7, and he gave them all back. Bogeying number 12, number 14, and just a moment ago, number 16. Makes him even par for the day. And right now hanging by a thread over Dan Pohl, who has finished. Jerry Pate will be first to hit. See that large bushy pine tree out there? As we return to the green here at 17, here's Ballesteros for birdie to go 2 under. And take over 4th place. The break to the left. Nicely done. Back to the tee now. Pate. That large pine tree on the left doesn't really come into play that much for the pros. They either work their way around it or they go over it. And Pate is in excellent position in the fairway. He's just a couple shots off the lead now with 2 holes left to play. Now big drive for Craig Statler, trying to get it back together. Large gallery at the tee, likes it very much, and so will he. On the green, Tom Weiskopf. This is for birdie for Weiskopf. Well, you think back now over the 6 shots that he gave away in those 2 holes, number 10 and number 13, you wonder what might have been for Weiskopf, who is now at +3. The battle is on. Craig Statler leading by 1 over Dan Pohl and by 2 shots over Jerry Pate. And taking over 4th place, Seve Ballesteros with the birdie here on 17. Then Tom Kite, who is finished, and the defending champion Tom Watson, who is also finished.
Seve Ballesteros, 1980 Masters champion, coming off the 18th tee, 405 yards, all uphill. And he is slightly in the trees, just beyond the gallery. Not as bad as Tom Kite was earlier, but nevertheless, we've seen a lot of wood play today in there, and that's another thought to keep in mind when Stadler comes to 18. He's got a long way to go. And of course, Tom, who's had triple bogey at 10, triple bogey at 13, back 9 has been a disaster. And Weiskopf has hit the tree, and he's in there with Ballesteros. Meanwhile, up ahead on the 18th green, 1976 Masters champion Raymond Floyd, frozen in disbelief as he misses that. Raymond started 1 under, goes 2 over for the round and 1 over for the tournament. Playing with Bob Gilder. Gilder had a brilliant 6 under 66 yesterday. Let's go to 17.
There's our leader, Craig Statler, and the reason he is reacting that way is because that ball is in a divot. Boy, that's the rub of the green, I guess you'd say. We go to 18.
Where Bob Gilder is finishing up. So So Gilder, who began at even par, finishes 3 over for this Masters. Back to 17.
Jerry Pate first to hit his second shot from the right center portion of the fairway, pinned far right behind the bunker. On the green, but a good 20 to 23 feet away from a birdie possibility. Ken Venturi, how about Statler here now? The ball being in the divot, what problems does that create for him?
First of all, it's a bad break. Secondly, he is going to have to hit down on the ball because the ball is as low as I've ever seen in a divot. So he's going to have to play the ball back a little bit and beat down on it, but it's not a good break. That's an unlucky break, Frank.
Statler taking a good look at the pin placement and also the bunker, which comes into play. Keep in mind he leads by 1. He qualified for this tournament by winning a pair of tour events, the last one in Tucson, between last Masters and this one. It's about 130, maybe 135 yards away. Oh, it will pull back to the bottom. The green rolls away at that point, and that will roll right off the edge by some 3 or 4 feet. Those of you watching yesterday, you recall our pin placement was in the lower right-hand area, and everything sloped away to that area. So it looked to be a fine shot for Craig Statler. Turns out to be something less than that. He's some 23, 24 feet away from the cup itself as he struggles to hang on. Large gallery, and you can see a good portion of them on the spectator mound giving Craig Statler a standing ovation as he approaches the 17th green. It's a great spectator vantage point, and the gallery rushing to get position. Some places 8 to 10 deep, encircling this entire hole. Quite a spectacle. In the last 2 holes of the 1982 Masters, is virtually this entire gallery converges on the 2 finishing holes. And the crowd being allowed to form on the crosswalk behind so they can have a view of the proceedings. This is the way things shape up right now. Stadler clinging to a precarious 1-shot lead over Dan Pohl, who has finished with a 67, his second straight 67, and leading Pate by 2. And Pate a little better than 20 feet away for a possibility of a birdie here on 17. Last year on Sunday, Watson had to make a great bunker shot here. Gary Player last won the tournament in 70-80 at that great second shot. This hole has turned out to be the moment of truth many times. To 18.
Ballesteros is ready for his second shot, trying to avoid the pine trees.
Get up there. Get up there.
And he arrowed it beautifully between the trees, and look at that. If it'll just get up on top. And it did. Barely made it. Back to 17.
About 25 feet away, up the hill. Pin at the highest point of this green, and beautifully done. To within a foot. So Statler with a short putt for his par to stay at 5 under for the tournament, even par for the round today. And he'll mark, and Jerry Pate will look over his putt, and again we go to 18.
Tom Weiskopf once more in trouble. And a similar shot. It'll run up to the top, perhaps too much, however. Yep. So Weiskopf, who apparently has been followed by a Greek chorus on the back 9. He lost his ball at 10, where he took a triple in the rocks and water of 13. In the woods, and now hot above the green at 18. It's a very, very difficult and heartbreaking story for Tom Weiskopf, and of course the 1980 Masters champion, the youngest in history, Seve Ballesteros. Back to 17.
And Jerry Pate, who continues to come on strong. 25-footer here for birdie. This would tie him with Pohl for second, just one shot behind Statler. Does it have enough? That hurt. So Pate will have a short putt left to stay at 3 under par for the tournament. He's always been a fine finisher here. Played here 6 years and been under par 4 of those 6 years in the final round of the tournament. Fine hand for Jerry Pate as he will head to the final hole. A bit of unfinished business now for Craig Statler, the leader. Foot to a foot and a half for his par. So Statler hanging on by 1. He's at 5 under. Pohl is at 4 under. Pate is at 3 under. As they go to the 72nd hole of the 1982 Masters. And we go there now.
You know, as Craig Stadler goes to the tee at 18, you have to remember he had what looked like a good break at 13 when instead of having his ball in the water, it was on the side of the bank. Then he looked like he had a very bad break when his shot at 17 found the divot. So he has done a bit of bobbing and weaving, considering the fact he began the day at 5 under, shot the front side in 3 under to get to 8 under par. And yesterday he played the back 5 under. Today it's been the other way. He's 3 over on the back. So Kenny, he is hanging on by 1. He has lost 3 shots, and he's also playing with a man who could conceivably give him a bad time, although he's running out of holes now, Jerry Pate. And here's Pate at the 18th.
In here someplace.
And you can see Pate on the right side. Kenny, there's a lot of pressure now on Stadler as we look down and see Tom Weiskopf, his 3rd shot. Meanwhile, Stadler is away, and Stadler in perfect position. So Steve Melnick here at 18, as it normally does, the 82 Masters, so many of the others have boiled down to the last shot.
I'm sure Krag is thinking back to after the 10th hole when he had a 6-shot lead on the field, and now suddenly with only 1 to spare. But on the other hand, Van, it beats being 1 behind.
Ballesteros and Weiskopf on the green here at 18. Don't forget, the presentation of the green jacket will follow the golf. Tom Watson, of course, the defending champion. Will it be Craig Stadler, Dan Pohl? Pohl is in at 4 under. Stadler walking up the fairway at 5, and Weiskopf finishing up his round. This for par. So Weiskopf finished up the tournament 2 over par. So he was 3 over for the day. He will be back next year. He's in the top 24. And of course, had it not been for 2 triple bogeys at 10 and 13, well, that's been Weiskopf's story. The saddest word of tongue and pen would just be the Masters for him, I think, Steve.
Well, been watching Tom finish out here on 18 and catching a glimpse of a smile from Tom was certainly nice to see after all the bad breaks that have happened to him today on this back 9.
Well, he'll be 40 in November, and I guess like good wine, he's aging properly.
I'm sure his time will come here.
Seve Ballesteros at 2 under, so if he could knock in this birdie, he would catch Jerry Pate. Now, Seve Ballesteros gets his birdie at 18. The 1980 Masters champion finishes at 3 under par, tied with Jerry Pate in 3rd position. Dan Pohl is at 4 under, and of course the leader is Craig Stadler. So for Ballesteros, who won here in '80, finishes up nicely, but all the pressure on Craig. Stadler has played exceptionally good golf, not just this tournament, but throughout the year, ever since he won in the desert. In fact, in his last 6 tournaments, he's had 5 finishes 7th or better. And here at the Masters, he's on top. He has played this hole par, par, birdie.
Then it looks good.
Don't check and hit that slope. If it hits the slope, it's going to go way down. And it's going. So we saw him have that trouble on a couple of previous holes, and it's going to hang up right there. And it is literally on the side of that hill, and you can see the caddy.
I'm sure he's beginning to wonder just what it's going to take for him to win this golf tournament right now.
That's right. He certainly hasn't had any lucky breaks except for that one time at 13 when the ball was on the bank instead of in the water. Now Jerry Pate tied with Ballesteros at 3 under.
Too close, ball. Too close.
Well, he was up inside, but see if it comes all the way back down. Nope. Yeah, there's still some life in it. Jerry Pate inside Craig Stadler on the 18th. And of course, Pate's hopes are still alive. You could have a big swing here should Stadler bogey and Pate birdie. So don't go wandering off. The 82 Masters is still very much alive. Here is the walk up the 18th. For Craig Stadler, win or lose, it has to be a thrill. He first came here and played as an amateur in 1974. And his best finish at the Masters, he tied for 7th in 1979. And now, if he can get down in 2, he will have won the 82 Masters. Jerry Pate, United States Open champion. He first came here and played as an amateur in 1975. And Pate's highest finish, tied for 6th in 1980, Ballesteros' year. So Stadler is at 5 under.
Vinny's got to be a little careful with his putt. It curls to his left as the ball slows to a halt, and he just wants to leave it right under the hole.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, that's a tragic putt. Oh, boy. We have seen some putts that were excruciating at 18 at Augusta. Hubert Green, Tom Weiskopf, Johnny Miller. The list is endless.
You know, Craig got here because he's putted well, Vin, and I still like his chances to make this putt, even though it's about as hard as he could leave it.
You know, the first 3 rounds of the top 10, even though he didn't hit the most greens, he had the fewest putts. He was putting exceptionally well, and yesterday he knocked them all in. But of course, here's Jerry Pate. If he knocks in this putt for birdie, he gets to 4 under and ties Pohl. And then if Stadler bogeys, you'd have a 3-way tie. When we first came on the air, when Stadler was at 8 under, he had a 6-shot lead. And of course, there is 10, the famous 10, where the sudden death playoff would begin. And there are a lot of early arrivals just in case. Joe Black PGA director and vice president and head of the rules, has come down to the green for the moment. That was evidently the old cup cut. Isn't that right, Steve?
Yes, Vin, that's the cup from the first round that gave the player so much trouble. Jerry's just tapping it down, which is right in his line.
Jerry Pate with this putt for birdie to get to 4 under to tie Dan Pohl for second, and then it'll be up to Stadler. So part of the story has been written. He will mark. And now, of course, after 71 holes, Craig Stadler comes to the 72nd hole having to make a putt, where just a little while ago he was at 8 under and the closest challenger was 6 shots back. And now he's fighting for the green jacket. And Jerry Pate will putt out. So Stadler has to stand and twist and turn in the shadowy late afternoon here at Augusta National. One precious stroke.
Well, as you see Jerry Pate putt for par here at 18. You have to wonder if Krag having to wait just a little bit extra might not affect him here.
Well, one thing, he's not playing under the clock. Take all the time he wants.
He's got the kind of a putt, though, that he can give a pretty firm wrap to. It's not a delicate downhill putt that might be a little tentative with. He can go ahead and hit this putt, which may be to his advantage.
Trying to win the Masters with this putt. I don't know how you feel, but to me it's tragic. I realize it's a great moment for young Dan Pohl, and it means more excitement and sudden death. But you hate to see somebody come back. And he had a 6-shot lead. He was 8 under. Everybody was making the jokes about they hope they have a green jacket size portly or burly. And now he and Dan Pohl will go to the 10th. There it is. It's a very long par 4, but it's also downhill. It's a 485-yard par 4. It was a hole where Lloyd Mangrum in 1940, when he shot a great 64, Mangrum 3-putted. You can see the rounds for Stadler. A very shaky first round, but everyone had that except Jack Nicklaus, and Pohl and Stadler were even at the end of one round. Pohl, however, came back with another 3 over, and Stadler made a move and was 3 under. Then they each shot 67 in the 3rd round. And then here in this 4th round, as Dan Pohl had remarkable 67 again, Stadler had the back 9 get away from him.
Kept hitting it off your thumb all that.
There'll be no interviews, and you just,
Ken Venturi talking to Dan Pohl. So in 1979, Fuzzy Zeller, in his first trip to the Masters, went in the playoff with Ed Snead and Tom Watson and won it. And now here's Dan Pohl in his first Masters, hip deep in a sudden death playoff with Craig Stadler. And of course the 10th tee is just a little ways from the 18th green. Pohl is ready, and of course psychologically Pohl should have some advantage because he mentally is on the upswing. He caught him. Stadler has to be very much down because disastrous things have happened to him. So that would be the mood of the two players. Dan Pohl, University of Arizona, who was 7 over when he came to the 13th hole yesterday and had the back-to-back eagles at 13 and 14 and then had birdies at 15 and 16. And then Pohl today started 1 over and proceeded to tear him up. He got to 2 under and then birdied 12 to get to 3 under, birdied 13 to get to 4 under, and that's how he finished up at 4 under. So he's been a hot player, and Craig Stadler has had everything turn cold.
Watching on TV,
well, anybody looking at it, you know, we think, well, he's going to have to hit a terrible putt. Jeez, you can't run.
You went 3 or 4 more back.
They were talking about the putt that Craig Stadler made, and Pohl was saying anybody looking at it might think he made a terrible putt, but he said you just can't afford to run it 3 or 4 feet by. Steve Melnick, who has been a man in motion, was on the tower at 18. Are you safely ensconced aboard number 10 now, Steve?
Then I'm here, and in a matter of several minutes, this hole is suddenly filled with thousands of people.
The 10th hole at Augusta is called Camellia, and there's a drop of something like 102 feet from tee to green. It was at one time 10 yards longer than number 13 until that par 5 hole was extended in 1975. There is Craig Stadler, and he has to be somewhat in a state of shock and somehow has to find a way to gird his loins and get ready. I believe I caught a glimpse of his wife giving him some consolation and perhaps a pep talk as well. So Craig Stadler. And that would be his wife, Sue, just to the right, his right.
Ben?
Yes, Steve.
It might be interesting to note that during the first 4 rounds, excuse me, Craig has played this hole 2 under par, while Dan Pohl has played it 3 over par.
Steve, we were talking about the difference in the mood of these two golfers. One has been on the rise, one has been going down.
Well, you can't help but think how disappointed Craig might be. And Dan, on the other hand, is so surprised and delighted to have a chance at this championship.
It's tails.
It came up tails on the flip. And Stadler said, I'll hit it.
Four, please. Craig Stadler, now driving. Go get him.
This is the 8th playoff in the 46th Masters.
You don't have to. Good shot, Craig. Four, please. Dan Pohl, now driving.
Craig is in perfect shape down at the lower left side of this fairway.
Straight on, good drive, straight arrow, right down the middle. It'll move to the left a little bit, I think, Steve, as it hits the mounds.
Yes, it did, Ken. He, too, is in very good position and very, very long.
While Craig Stadler and Dan Pohl get ready to make their all-important second shots, we can give you the finishing scores on this 46th Masters. Tommy Aaron, 12 over. George Archer, 8 over, Masters champions. Ballesteros, 3 under. Bean, 2 over. Brewer, Masters champion, 17 over. Burns, 11 over. Crenshaw, 7 over. Danny Edwards, 7 over. Keith Fergus, 11 over. Masters champion Raymond Floyd, 1 over. Bob Gilder, 3 over. Masters champion Bob Golby, 20 over. David Graham, 5 over. Hubert Green, who knows all about missing a putt at 18 and having your Masters world come to an end, 15 over. Jay Haas, 16 over. The left-hander from Japan, Yutaka Hagawa, 4 over. Maris Hatalski, 7 over. Mark Hayes, who suffered the anguish of a 4-putt 18th green yesterday, 2 over. Jim Holtgreave, the amateur out of St. Louis, 14 over. Peter Jacobson, 6 over. Tom Kite, always finishing here well in the top 10 or thereabouts, 1 under. Wayne Levy, 7 over par. Bruce Litsky, with an eagle yesterday, came home today a +6. And Jody Mudd, the youngster from Louisville, the student at Georgia Southern, low amateur, +6, which also puts him in the top 24, meaning he will be back in 1983. Larry Nelson, 1 over. Jack Nicklaus, 5 times Masters champion, the only one to ever successfully defend his championship here at Augusta National, 4 over par. Greg Norman, the Australian who burst upon the scene here, he was 4th in last year's Masters, 12 over par. Peter Oosterhuis, 7 over. Arnold Palmer, 4 times Masters champion, made the cut, 21 over. Jerry Pate missed a golden opportunity at 18, -3. Pete, +8. Gary Player, 3 times a winner, 4 over. Dan Pohl, right in the thick of things at 4 under. Jack Renner, 6 over. Chichi Rodriguez threw his ball, his glove, and his tees to the fans when he finished 13 over. Bill Rogers, 13 over. And now to the drama at 10.
Krag will be first to play here at the 485-yard downhill par 4. Ken, what do you think might be going through Krag's mind on this shot?
First of all, he's got to get it on the green, and he's looking at the sprinkler there. It's 175, and he is taking a 6-iron downhill. Punch it down, moving from right to left.
Watch this. Look out. Should stay on, I think, Steve.
Yeah, it's not bad from there.
Oh, who is very strong, but not much stronger, I don't think, than Stadler.
Dan is a very long, short iron player. Ken, he may have as little as 7-iron from there.
He has 7-iron. That's a very good lie.
He left it out to the right. It's not going to draw. It could catch the bunker.
It's over the bunker.
Or in the gallery.
It may kick down a bit. Not bad. He got a nice break from it. That could have been worse. And there you see it. Sudden death. Craig Stadler and Dan Pohl for the 1982 Masters Championship.
It is only proper and right, I think, in that cathedral-like setting at the 10th green where the acoustics are so great. The huge gallery has washed in from all angles and banked up against the trees. Craig Stadler, born in San Diego, Dan Pohl from Mount Pleasant, Michigan. Locked up at 284 with Stadler on the green. Dan Pohl, as you saw, off to the right of the green. And we can get back to Steve Melnick and Ken Venturi.
Right now, I would have to say advantage Stadler. Craig is below this pin, putting up at it. As you see, there's some question as to who's away right now.
I think they've pointed to Dan Pohl as away.
Where earlier here, from this very same place, we saw Seve Ballesteros putt the ball some 8 feet past this pin. It is very, very fast from this angle.
We were looking at Harry Buchanan and talking about these greens, a great job he's done on these greens. Used to be years back, they used to say if you couldn't hear yourself walk, you were not on the 10th green. And what they've done to this green is absolutely magnificent and the best I've ever seen him look. All he's thinking about now, Steve, is not whether he can make it. It's how close can he get the ball to the hole.
Ken, quite frankly, he's got a very difficult two-putt from here.
Well, coming out of the fringe is going to jump, and it could catch on him or else it could jump on him. And it caught on him.
Got to go some more. Look at this. I tell you what, you're looking at one of the toughest putts on the entire golf course right there.
Krag's putt is right up this hill from some 32 feet with a very slight right to left putt. And as we said earlier, he has a very safe place from which to approach the hole.
I would give him a 32 plus. I'd put that over 40 feet from him with there. It's all speed. Slow down, ball.
Very nice.
If I was Krag, I'd putt out.
It's hard. Billy?
Great four.
Let's look at this again on CBS Action Track. A very nice effort from there. Ken Venturi, Dan's putt is one that looks like it breaks left, but we've seen many putts from that side of the hole today stay on the high side, the right side of the hole.
Well, there's a big difference between putting this putt and putting if this was the 10th hole during play, because he can hit it much firmer, because if he doesn't make it, there's no tomorrow.
Not to be. You want to get him, Frank?
We'll be back with the presentation of the green jacket. It will go to 1982 Masters champion Craig Stadler. In a moment, the green jacket will be presented to Craig Stadler, and I'm sure on the 18th, when that putt got away from him, that was the farthest thing from his mind. But then, and perhaps a bit of irony there, he saw his opponent, Dan Pohl, run a putt by and then miss it, and the jacket went to Stadler. One more time. Dan Pohl. Stadler is like a man who can only be thankful he has walked away from the wreckage of what could have been a terrible accident. And for Dan Pohl, in his first year at the Masters, an experience he'll never forget. The 8th playoff in Masters history winds up with Craig Stadler defeating Dan Pohl. And so Augusta National is quiet now, having furnished us another magnificent 4 days. In a moment, the green jacket. One of the highlights coming down here to the Masters, Augusta National, the memories that this great tournament has afforded all of us. They put it to music and to song, and here it is.
Well, it's springtime in the valley on Magnolia Lane. It's the Augusta National and the master of the game. Who wear that green coat on Sunday afternoon? Who walk that 18th fairway singing this tune? It's you that I love. It's you that I miss when I'm gone. Well, it's Watson and Byron Nelson and Demerit and Claire and Sneed. And it's Amen's corner and it's Hogan's perfect swing. It's Sarazen's double eagle at the 15th and 35, and the spirit of Clifford Roberts that keeps it alive. Augusta, your dog.
Words of T.S. Eliot. We talked about it earlier. April is the cruelest month, but not for Craig Stadler. And to talk to Craig Stadler and make the presentation of the green jacket, the chairman of the Masters here at Augusta National, Mr. Hord Harden.
Thank you. Well, fellas, you kept us a little late, but you gave us a great show. We're here, of course, to put the green jacket on the new Masters champion, but before we do that, we'd like to speak for a moment to our low amateur, Jody Mudd. Jody, a wonderful show you put on for us. Had a 67 in your third round, your first appearance in the Masters. You've proven to yourself, I assume, that you can play with the big boys. What are your immediate plans in golf?
Well, thank you for all the compliments. I'm tickled to death to be low amateur and make the top 24, and I'll definitely be back next year. But my plans of right now are to turn pro probably tomorrow and play in Tallahassee Open.
Well, that's interesting. That's pretty quick. Look out, you fellas. Dan, you too had a great tournament. You're in the record book in at least 2 different ways. You were 6 under in 4 holes yesterday, successive eagles. Nobody's ever done that before.
Well, it was just a great tournament for me. I haven't been playing that well this year, and so just to hit the ball solid for the last 2 rounds especially, it's just too bad that I had to finish the way I did the 1 extra hole, but I'm really just pleased to have played well.
Well, you have a reputation and being the longest hitter on the tour, and you're not that big a fellow. To what do you attribute your ability to hit the ball so far?
Well, if I knew that, I could probably make a lot of money selling books. But as far as, I just think I have exceptional timing. I'm not, like you say, I'm not that big of a fellow, but I do have very good, I guess, hand-eye coordination and super timing, and that is really the key to length, I feel. So, on this golf course, it definitely helps you on, and I drove the ball extremely well today, and like I say, I'm just happy with the way I played.
Good. Well, Craig, I guess you're pretty worn out by now. We'd like to congratulate you.
Thank you.
I know this is your first so-called major, and that must make you feel very good.
Well, it's obviously a great feeling. It hadn't really hit me yet. The way I played the front 9 today, I kind of got carried away with myself walking down those holes down in Amen Corner, thinking about the jacket and everything else, I guess, and got away from my game plan a little bit. But hit a lot of good shots, and Dan obviously played very well. He is due congratulations for definitely hanging in there and making some birdies when really it looked like if everybody was playing for second for a while there. And
we're going to show your putt at 18, which you'll think about many times. How long was that putt?
Oh, it was about 8 feet.
Seemed like it was 18 feet?
No, it actually seemed like a pretty easy putt. The first putt broke quite a bit right to left, and I played it just outside the hole, and it didn't turn a bit. It stayed right there.
And there's the putt that Dan missed on first extra playoff hole. Craig, you got quite a reputation as a fellow with a a good temper. I don't know whether it's deserved. You think this win is going to have any effect on that?
It's the first time I've had it called a good temper. No, it's it's something that I don't know if temper is the right word for it. I don't know if emotion is the right word for it. It's something probably due to the fact that I strive for a little more out of my golf game than I get sometimes. I've always had it. I'll probably always will have it. It's gotten to the point now where it doesn't bother me come the next shot.
Well, that's the most important thing, I'm sure. What about the nickname, Walrus?
Oh, that just kind of evolved out of Jerry Pate at the Walker Cup in '75, I think, and George Burns. But no, as far as that goes, it doesn't bother me one way or the other. I think it's there to stay.
What does your wife think about that?
Well, she went out and got me about a dozen walrus head covers, so obviously it doesn't bother her either.
Well, again, congratulations to all you fellas. And we'll ask our defending champion, Tommy Watson, to come up and put that jacket on you, Craig, and congratulations again.
Here it is, pal.
Oh.
You deserved it. Will it fit?
Will it fit? I don't know if they make enough material for that. That fits just right.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Played well.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.